I'm going to show you how to add a custom upsell to your Shopify store with ChatGPT in under an hour to save you time, money, and hassle. So if you're tired of using upsell apps that are slow and clunky and missing features that you want, or working with developers that don't understand your requirements and keep missing deadlines, well, you're in the right place. In this video, I'll walk you through getting your basic upsell up and running first, and then we'll layer on more features for a more polished experience. And we'll do all of this by letting ChatGPT do the heavy lifting. So let's take a look at an example. We're on the Obvi website looking at their collagen capsules. And you can see here on this first part is the option to add the product to cart. And then underneath it, you have this little box here where they're upselling their membership. So let's take a look at the flow. We can add the product to cart and it gets added to cart. And then we can also join the Obvi Club. But now, if we check the cart, we can see that the Obvi Club is also in the cart with our collagen capsules. And they've also added this coffee roast for free as a benefit for joining the membership as part of that upsell. And so that's sort of that flow that we're going to build ourselves today. Now, building this is going to require us to modify some code. But if you don't code, don't worry. We're going to make this as simple as possible. And all we're going to do is we're going to employ two strategies. One is we're going to borrow Shopify code as much as possible. They've already built all sorts of functionality in their themes, and we're just going to take what we need without trying to reinvent the wheel. Second, for anything else, we're going to use ChatGPT to code for us. And that's basically it. So let's get started. So what we have here is a demo Shopify store on the left. We're using the Dawn theme and ChatGPT on the right. In the store itself, I've set up two products. There's these laces, which is going to be the upsell, and the shoe, which is going to be our main product. And in here, we're going to add this box to upsell the laces right between the buy buttons and the description. All right. So first, we're going to put a starting prompt. So I've already typed one up, but I'm just going to put it in here so that we can get it to work and we can take a look at what it says. So I'm creating an upsell customization in Shopify 2.0 theme, and we would like to add that upsell in the liquid files, and we want to put it in the main dash product.liquid file, which is the main file that controls this page here, the product page. And then we give a little bit of description on what we want the HTML and CSS to look like. So HTML and CSS is sort of defines what's on the page. CSS will define what it looks like. So we're just saying, hey, please write that up for me. And then I just kind of describe what it looks like in words. And it's already come back with some code on what that could look like. And it also tells you where to put it, which is in the main dash liquid file. And so we're going to take a look at all of this and start putting it in. So what we're going to do here is we're going to edit the code. And we want to go to the main product. Okay, so this is what this looks like. And we're going to see all sorts of things going on. And if you've never read this before, this might be a little bit overwhelming, but you just need to look for this section here. So for block in section.blocks, case block type, and then it gives you all these different block types. And if you look at the structure here, you can see there's an app, there's a text item, there's a title, price, etc. And if we actually come to the theme customization area, we'll see the same structure. And so that being able to look back and forth between what's in the theme editor and what you see in the code can help you identify the different parts that you're looking for. So let's get to the products section, default product. And we can see here, if we were to add the block, right? So there's text, SKU, inventory, status, custom liquid, collapsible row. All these sound pretty familiar because if we come here, right, we can see, the price, the title, buy buttons, description. All of these all these options actually show up in these options right here. And so what we're going to do is we want to add another option in here so we can put this into our theme editor and adjust it as we want. So we could, move it around. Let's say if we were to add it as a text block, we could then just move it up and down wherever we like. And so we're not going to keep this one. Let's take that out and let's come back to the code editor. And it's saying we want to include it in upsell laces. Okay, so I'm going to first add another option. So we're just going to copy this structure here, and we're going to say when upsell box, then we are going to include these upsell laces. Actually, let's call it upsell product. Make it a little bit more general. And this is going to be the name of the file that we're going to be including. And that file is actually this one right here. And so we're going to create a new snippet, add new snippet, and we're going to call this upsell product. All right, so that file name there needs to match what we've added here. So if we just need to find that again, upsell, there we go, upsell product. Okay, and we're just going to take all of this code and we're going to paste it in here. We're going to save that. And finally, we are going to come down to the bottom. And there's all this section here called schema. And so this schema will define what are the options that are available when you want to add a block here. And so again, we're going to just copy the structure that already exists in Shopify. And we're going to call this type upsell. Actually, what did we call it? Sorry. I thought we added something in here somewhere. One upsell box. That's what we called it. So we actually need to put some quotations around it just to make sure that the structure is exactly the same, right? So seeing the colors there helps tell us whether something is correct or not. So we called this upsell box, and that's what we're going to use to define in our schema. So we're looking for the blocks section in the schema. So, and we call this upsell box. All right, so let's save that. We're getting an error. What's the problem? Upsell box name is required. Oh, okay. So we're going to copy the structure here. And we're going to give it a name. So we'll call this the upsell box. And so that's the name that's going to show up in the theme editor. Okay, we're still getting an error. It probably has to do with these commas. There we go. Okay. So now if we come back to the theme editor and we're going to refresh, we can add block, and there we go. Upsell box actually shows up now. So why don't we add that in? Upsell box. Let's throw that between the buy buttons and the description. And that's what that looks like. So let's save that. Refresh. And already, here we go. We've already got this box with an add to cart button, some description on what we want, and some features. And we didn't have to really write any code. We let ChatGPT do everything for us, and we did some structure copying from Shopify code itself, right? And we've already got ourselves something on the product page that um, feels like we're getting very close. Um, Now, we don't have any functionality for this button. It doesn't really do anything yet. And we can add some additional features as we go along. So let's keep building on this. So let's say we want to now give this button some functionality. This can be a little bit difficult if we're trying to code up our own custom button. But Shopify actually already has uh, that button defined, and it's actually defined right here, add to cart, right? So this function here, we can just borrow it and use it for our upsell button. So if we come to product form on the main product page, let me just expand this out. Okay, so product form, let's take a look through here. Okay, maybe I'm looking for the buy button. Okay, so buy buttons. Let's just quickly look through here. And okay, so when the buy button option is selected, right? So that's going to be these buy buttons right there. So that's this block. It's going to render this snippet. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So we can go into here, buy buttons dot liquid. Okay. And so if we come in here, we actually see this form, right? This form will grab a product and a product ID. And when you submit it, there's a button somewhere, right? There's a button, it'll submit it. And what we can do is we can just take this code here, reuse it, and feed it a different product ID or variant ID in this case to add our upsell product. So why don't we give that a try? So let's grab product form. So this is where it starts, and we're going to have to find where it ends right there. Okay. So we're just going to grab this whole section. We're going to copy that. And we're going to basically just put it in this bottom section right here. Okay. We're getting some error here. Let me just undo for a second. What's the problem? Oh, I think I grabbed from the wrong spot. Oops. Right, I was supposed to come all the way up here. So let's do that again. All the way up to product form. Okay, and let's add that in. There we go. And now we want to add the proper product that we're looking for. And so that is going to be by adjusting the appropriate product ID. Um, Sorry, right here, the variant ID. So we're going to want to change that to be the one that we're looking for. So let's give that a try. In order to find that, we're going to come back out and we're going to go into our products and we're going to go into our fiery red lace. And we normally want to find the variant. In this case, there is no variant. So what do we do here? There's the product number actually is just in our URL. And what we can do is we can just add JSON here, and it will give us some information, which we just need to find the variant. Okay, variant ID right there. Oops, I just lost it. Okay, variant ID. So that's right there. So we can copy that and we can come back to our code and just replace that section with the variant ID. Okay, let's try saving that and see what happens. Okay, so now our add to cart button looks a little different. Let's try it out. There we go. And the function works. We've got our fire red lace added to cart. We can take a look at our cart. It's right there. And so as you can see, it's really straightforward to just get this upsell going. And the next part we're going to do is really just start to make it your own, add some customizations, make it look a little bit better, and you know, get the fonts working a little bit nicer. Maybe you want to change that background. Maybe you want to change the image. So why don't we get into that? Okay, so let's bring ChatGPT back. And next, we're going to um, add some features so that when we go into our theme editor, let's come back out here. Online store, customize theme. Okay, so if you remember, when we come into the theme editor and we look at our product area and we look at our different blocks, they often give you some options, right? So some settings that you can adjust. Let's find one that does have that. So okay, so here buy buttons. You got these little check boxes here that give you some settings you can choose. Um, Variant picker gives you the options to choose between pills and drop down. So we can start adding some settings here so you can build this upsell on your backend, but then give anyone else the option to customize it on in the theme editor. And so that gives you a lot of flexibility to not have to go to the code all the time to make changes. And so right now, our upsell box has no customizable settings available. So let's say uh, we want to add that now. So let's put um, a prompt together. So I have something here that we could use. So I now want to extend the function of the schema definition to include settings. So the schema definition is down here where we added our upsell box into the block section. And you can see here some of these other blocks, say text, have settings set. And what we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to add settings. So this is the upsell. Uh, we call this upsell box in our case, and we call this an upsell box. And we want to add the following settings. So we want to add the title text, font size, font color, and font style, uh, bullet features, text and font style, button text, color, font style, and let's also add box background color. Okay, so that's going to be quite a few settings that we're going to be adding, and ChatGPT is going to help us modify the code here and also help write what we need to add to the schema section right here. So let's take a look once it's done loading up. Okay, so now that it's done, let's take a quick look at what we're seeing here. So what it's done here is it's created the block definition, right? So upsell box with the settings available. So we've got background color, we've got text, um, all the different things that we had specified we wanted to add here. So let's just copy this and add it in. And we're going to add the comma there because that needs to be between the different blocks. And let's just adjust the spacing a little bit. Okay, so we're going to save that. And then these settings here are then going to be set in the upsell box settings editor. But we also need to have the upsell code to reference those settings. And that's what this code here is supposed to do. So it's telling us um, that you want to modify using these settings. The following code snippet applies these settings dynamically. Now, here it actually didn't take into account the button that we changed because we copied this button code from the buy buttons.liquid. So we're gonna actually just copy all this code back and feed it back in the code interpreter and say, this is the current code for upsell product.liquid. Please add in the settings, the block settings into it using block.settings. So what I noticed here is actually they specified using section settings. Um, because this is defined in the block section, right? So the block section, these actually should be block.settings. So I'm just trying to tell ChatGPT, hey, use block.settings instead of section.settings. If you are curious, the section settings are actually going to be for these parts. So this is a section, right? And so that's a section setting right there because product information is a section, related products is a section, and here are some of the other sections, and those have their own settings. But in our case, because we're using a we're within a section, right? So this product information is a section. Underneath it are what are called blocks, and that's just how they call them. So we're looking at block settings. All right, so let's put that in and let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so it's given me some of the schema again, which I don't think we actually needed in this case, but it also provided some code here. Okay, you know what? I'm going to adapt. It's not quite giving me what I was expecting. So in this case, I'm going to come back here and re-prompt it. So I'm going to edit this prompt. The code remains the same. This is the current code for the upsell product liquid. Please modify the above code to include the settings that we just set. Note that the settings were set in the block. So let me just copy this. This way it has that additional context. We're set as block settings as follows. Okay, so let's see if this works a little bit better. And this is something that you might need to do. We're going to have to, even though we're not writing the code ourselves, we do have to sometimes pay attention to what the code is giving us, especially as you get a little bit further in and you want to add additional functionality to your existing code. And so being able to kind of read it and make modifications to your prompts, if it's not quite giving you what you're expecting, is going to be a part of this process. What I like to do when I'm doing this is I actually like to build block by block. Um, because if you try to give ChatGPT all of the features all at once, it tends to start to confuse things because there's a lot of interactions that have to happen. So you almost have to break down the problem into smaller pieces and then implement them one by one. in order to get this to work. And so that's why when we're doing this, we start off by just printing something on screen, and now we're adding a little bit of extra functionality here. Okay, so this is the code here, and we're going to just paste this in. Now, um, we're not going to just paste it in because it doesn't quite do the upsell part quite as well. But I'm going to take just the first part and see if how that works. So we're just going to take this part and we're going to leave the upsell bottom alone because that's where we added the Shopify code for the button. And we don't want to mess with that too much right now. Okay, so let's save that and let's see what happens. I think it changed a little bit. I actually quite don't quite remember what it looked like before, but I remember the background being a little bit darker. And maybe these fonts have changed a little bit. But what we can do is we can refresh our theme editor and then go to our upsell box and we can make some minor modifications here. So let's say we want our background to be um, pop out a little bit more. And let's make this kind of like a pinkish red color. And there we go. That kind of adjusts there. Let's say we want to make our font size a little larger. So now it's a little bit bigger. Um, and let's say we want to add a feature like save 20% when you add laces with your shoes. And we can say lifetime warranty, something like that. So now you can see how we can add these customizations directly in the theme editor and have it show up on. Oh, that's strange. It just changed back. Okay, so I think this is something I ran into a few times, and um, s- what ChatGPT was telling me when I was trying to ask what's going on here is to clear the cache. So for whatever reason, um, we have to. Sometimes the data just doesn't want to update properly. So I'm just going to clear the cache here and leave the theme editor, and then come back in and see if that helps. Because we saw that it was updating, but then if we come back to the product page here, we're going to see that it just didn't save. And so sometimes I think it's just because um, Shopify needs a little bit of time to update everything on the back end, so it knows to update these things. So let's try this again. And if it doesn't work, then we're just going to do another option on the code side. But just know that this should work if you just give it a little bit of time. So let's say save 20% if you buy these laces with shoes. And we can call feature 2 lifetime warranty. And we can maybe make the title size 24, let's say. Okay, let's try saving again. And let's refresh. Okay, it doesn't really want to do that. But what we can do is let's just kind of change it on the back end and make this the default. So we can change the default to be a different, oh, that's not quite right. Okay, change the default there. We can change our title size to say 24. And our features, we can call this save 20% if purchased with shoes, lifetime warranty. So what we're setting here is the default. It does it is able to capture the default uh, settings immediately, but I have found that sometimes you just need to give it some time before it works in the theme editor. So let's just do that right now. Okay, there we go. So now we have added laces with your shoes, and we can add it to cart. We can add our shoes to cart. Perfect. Okay, so next we want to add an image here. So we have, if we go back to um, our upsell product, we just have this placeholder right here. So why don't we add a setting for that as well? So we can say in upsell laces, upsell product liquid. Maybe we should just update this. So ChatGPT has the context. So we're just asking ChatGPT to add another setting to add the placeholder image in. How would we add an image picker in the schema? So we also need the code on what we need to do to add the image picker in. But for now, while that's going, we can update our image line. So we want to just update this line right here with the block settings. It's actually also adding um, it looks like it's adding a default image as well, but we're just going to update this only. Oops, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. So let's save that. And then we add this as into our schema. So let's just put that there at the top. Okay. So we might run into a similar problem as last time if we refresh this, and if we add an image, it might not be able to add it right away. So let's give it a try. But if not, then we'll just remember that we can come back later and update that after sort of the uh, the cache clears. So let's add the lace. Okay. So now we've got our lace there, and hopefully it saves properly. Let's take a look. Okay, there we go. We've got our laces added in. And so you can also add another setting if you want to be able to adjust the size of the image. We're just going to skip by that. This looks decent enough, but again, when you do this yourself, you can start to add additional settings and start to make it your own. Okay, so let's move on and add some additional functionality. Um, let's say um, we go to the laces product page, right? And we actually see that this upsell is on the laces product page too, right? And that doesn't really make sense. We don't really want to upsell laces on the laces. We only want to upsell it on the product. And so, one very simple way to get around that is actually just straight in the theme editor. We can define different product templates. So we can see here we've got one default product. Both the lace and the shoe are the same type. So we'll just create a new template. It'll be based on the default and we'll call it upsell template. Okay. And now we can just get rid of the upsell box in this template. We can save that and we can come back out, go to our products, and we'll just set the laces to that new template that we just created. So we'll come here and we'll just set it to that. And now if we refresh this, it no longer shows it. But if we go to our shoes, we still see our upsell there. Okay, what else can we do? We can add some additional functionality. Let's say you want to prevent them from adding a second lace once they've already added it in. So what we can do is we could say disable this add to cart button after they pressed it. So why don't we write up a prompt for that? So let's come back to our code and we can I'm just going to copy and paste this whole thing. Okay, the above is the code we're using for the upsell. I would like to add okay. So we're asking it to add some logic to disable the button after it's been pressed. And so let's see what it comes up with. Okay. So now it's telling us to add an ID to the upsell button. So we can come to our button section. We just need to look for the word button right here. And actually, it's got an ID already, product submit button. So we can just use that one, or we can actually simplify down and just say, we'll just call this upsell button. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add this JavaScript to disable button. So it's telling us to add this to the bottom of the page. I'm going to add it between the styles and the HTML up here. I just like to have it there personally, so I can see it a little bit easier. And I'm just going to paste that in. So what this does is it adds an event listener, which is sort of like looking for. It's just some JavaScript on the page that is waiting for some action to occur, and that action that it's waiting for is a click, and that click happens on the upsell button. So essentially, it's just waiting for our upsell button to get clicked. If it gets clicked, then it will run this line of code here. And it just figures out. ChatGPT will figure out the code for you, and we are just adding it in. And we've already updated the ID of the button a little bit earlier. If I can just find it right here. So let's save that and let's test it out. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh to make sure it's there. And then I'm going to add to cart. And you can see it's been disabled now. But it did not add the product. So we are going to tell ChatGPT, we're going to tell ChatGPT what happened so it can help debug for us. So um, the button was properly disabled, but the uh, the form did not submit. Okay, and see what it does. So it's actually acknowledging that it prevented the form from submitting, and it's going to suggest to make a little bit of a change. Okay, it's saying it's going to programmatically submit the button. So I'm going to modify this a little bit. We want the button's submission to not be affected by um, the script. Only disable after submission. So I'm just going to tell it to do this instead of, because what it's doing here is it seems to be kind of doing a roundabout thing where it's stopping the button from being submitted and then saying, okay, now you go. But we want to just let it go through and then disable the button. Okay, so now it's looking for submit instead of click. So let's try that out. Okay, so let's click the button. It's added to the cart, but it hasn't been disabled. Yeah, so that didn't work. Let's try it again. Yeah. Okay, so we'll tell ChatGPT what's happening again and see what it does. Okay, it's going back to the same solution it went to previously. So we can still give that a try. Let's. Okay, so adds a cart, still doesn't disable. Um, okay, so why don't we come back up here? Um, and I'm just going to say, can we add a delay before uh, disabling the button to make sure? So we're going to try it this way. So what I've asked it to do is just let the button do its thing, and then after a short delay, it will disable the button. So let's try that and see if it works a little bit better. Okay, perfect. We've got it added to cart, and the button's been disabled. And I'm going to do one last thing with this upsell box, and I want to actually hide it from view if the laces are in the cart. So we can see in the cart there's already 6 laces in here. But let's say they already have one. We don't need to show this upsell. And if we refresh the page, it's still going to be shown here. You're still going to be able to add one to cart at least. And we just want to prevent that from happening. So I'm going to come back here and say, paste the code back in. So this is the upsell product code. Okay. And so we've just asked ChatGPT to say that we only want the upsell to show if it's not already in the cart. And so we're going to, while this is working, we're going to clear out a cart a little bit so that we don't have those laces in there anymore. So we can see that it is wanting to do it with JavaScript, but there's actually a better way, in my opinion. And so we're going to just ask ChatGPT to do it that way. So can we use um, a loop on cart cart.items instead to check for the variant, the upsell variant. And so this cart.items gives us the information on what's in the cart, and is actually just part of the Shopify functionality. This way, we don't have to have all these extra scripts in place, and instead just uses what already exists in Shopify. Okay, so let's see what it's doing here. Okay, it still wants to do this by script, um, which is interesting because when I was trying to do this previously, it actually gave me some different code. So I'm going to just ask, can I use this logic instead? Okay, and so what this here is just looping through the liquid code using the item.cart, and here is explaining what it's actually doing. And it says, yeah, this is a good way of doing it. So I'm going to do it this way. Now you can do it the JavaScript way, especially if you're doing this for the first time. You probably are just trying to put something together, and this would work fine. But I personally just like doing it this way better. So that's what we're going to do. And add this to the very end. Okay. So let's save that. And we also have a setting here. So we need to add that into the schema. So that setting, so what we've done here is we've created a setting for the variant ID. So right now I've hard coded it in here, right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take that out. Um, not sure if the quotations need to be there or not. So why don't we try it like that first, and then add a setting for the variant ID. Let's place it right here. And I deleted, I didn't keep the variant ID, so I'm just going to copy it from here. Okay. Whoops. We actually need to put the quotations here. Okay, everything's saved. Let's refresh and give this a try. So we'll add the cart. Okay, expression spring to be ID. So I believe we have to actually remove these quotations here because the variable is already a string. So adding the quotations doesn't help it. So let's try that again. Okay, so in this case, because we need to see what the syntax should look like, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to fix this for me. So I'm going to say, here is my product form. And here is the definition for variant ID. Is there any syntax error on this line? And so this is one way we can ask ChatGPT to help us fix our code if there is any problems, especially if we know whereabouts it would be, because what we've changed is likely going to be where the errors are. Okay, so we actually need to make this, add these curly brackets because it sets it as a variable. So that's what we're going to add in. Okay. And now we can give this a test again. There we go. We've got our laces and cart. We can view our cart. We've got our laces and our shoe. And if we come back, we don't see our upsell anymore. So the last thing we need to do is we can just add a discount for the laces. So if we come back and go to the Shopify admin area, I'm just going to keep the theme editor open because we're going to come back a little bit later. Okay, so if we go to the discounts area and we create a discount, we're going to do a buy X, get Y. Make it automatic. Let's give it a title. And we're going to say when you buy one shoe, you get one lace for 20% off. And we're going to make it so that you can only use it once. Okay, so if we were to add that lace into the cart, we should be able to see that that 20% discount is applied. There we go. And so what have we done now? We have created a upsell on our product page. We've created that upsell. We have set it up so that we can change the settings of that upsell in our theme editor directly: image, font size, colors. Then we have disabled the button when it's been added to the cart, so prevent it from being added twice. We have added a discount whenever that product is added together with the shoe. We have got it so that the upsell doesn't continue to appear if they come back to this product or any other product with this theme, really. So if it was a different shoe, they wouldn't necessarily see that upsell if that's how you want it to work. And on top of that, when you go to the lace product, because we've set it up on a different product template, that upsell is never going to show. And so we've done a lot here, and we've done it all pretty quickly just using ChatGPT. So you can see that using ChatGPT Code Interpreter, we can start to make our own theme customizations, like adding this upsell, without relying on apps or developers. Just make sure that if you're doing these customizations yourself, to make a copy of your theme and test before you make it live, because one small error in your code could potentially break a whole bunch of things. I'm going to be doing a lot of these customizations on our brands, and if you are interested in seeing a specific customization, then just let me know in the comments below, and I'll see if I can work something in with using ChatGPT to show how I would implement it into the theme. Anyway, hope you like this one, and I'll see you in the next one.